Tonight on CFTK-TV News, BC Hydro is making people aware of a major upcoming project, Terrace's new hospital is set to get a new name, and Vancouver has voted on many motions without their mayor present.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. To start, the Northwest BC Resource Benefits Alliance has gotten some very good news, as was revealed in a press conference earlier today.
A major announcement was made earlier today in the city of Terrace with various different government officials in attendance, and the announcement's subject was some funds that are being given out.
Today, the Premier, MLA Jennifer Rice, Minister Cullen, and myself, with so many mayors around the RBA region, are celebrating the announcement of the $250 million, $50 million per year for the next 5 years of the RBA Alliance. And so the co-chairs have been working on this for many years.
BC Premier David Eby also later elaborated on what these funds will mean for the Northwest BC Resource Benefits Alliance.
Really what it means is money from the province for communities that have big resource projects outside of their boundaries, where the workers live in the communities and they're not able to raise the tax revenues from the employer to fund things that make communities great. It's a community center, a pool, an arena, library, roads, all the things they need to fund. They don't have access to that tax base because the employer is outside of the community. And what we did with this announcement is close that loop between the prosperity that's generated here and getting that money back to communities so it can be reinvested in the towns and the cities here so people can really prosper.
Terrace's Mayor Sean Bouitosh went on to speak about how helpful these funds will be to the city of Terrace.
Oh, I think this is a significant thing for Terrace. I think this, when people look back at this 5-10 years from now, it'll be a historical day in Northwest BC. The revenue that will come into our communities that can help us rebuild infrastructure that's been failing will be monumental to help us move forward and build our communities back up.
This fund's first payment is expected to come out in the springtime, but what exactly the money will be used for will be revealed later. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cal Maslin.
A long-running project is being planned by BC Hydro, and they are going from place to place to let northern BC residents know about it.
Yesterday, BC Hydro held an open house in the city of Terrace at the local Sportsplex's banquet room in order to make the public more aware of a major overarching project that has been split into two separate parts.
Basically what BC Hydro is proposing to do in partnership with Nations is twin our 500 kilovolt transmission line between Prince George and Terrace. So it's about 345 kilometers of new transmission line.
The given reason for the transmission expansion is so that BC Hydro can end up meeting their ever-growing demand from customers for both clean and reliable electricity, as well as to support the provincial government's electrification part of their Clean BC plan. But as mentioned before, this project is being done in two segments, from Prince George to Glenannon, which is near Fraser Lake, as well as from Glenannon to Terrace, and the reason for the splitting of the expansion construction was revealed at the open house as well.
Yeah, we're calling it Phase 1 and Phase 2, and it's purely based on the timing. So when we can actually put Phase 1 into service by 2030, and that would allow us to provide capacity to the North Coast. This section, Phase 2, would come into service in 2032 and would provide, again, more capacity for our North Coast customers.
BC Hydro is planning on holding two more of these open houses, one in Vanderhoof on March 18th at the Integris Community Center's multi-purpose room, and on the 19th in Fraser Lake at their Royal Canadian Legion branch. Those who wish to learn more about this project can also visit BC Hydro's website. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cal Maslin.
It has recently been publicized that the Terrace City Council is unanimously in favor of giving the new Mills Memorial Hospital a different name, or to be more specific, a new name in a language that is used by the Tsimshian First Nations members, Somaliacs. While the words Mills Memorial Hospital were officially attached to the side of the new building, that name has since been covered up while the new name is in the process of being determined. This motion to create a new name that was created by City Councilor Dave Gordon and later seconded by fellow councilor Inder Dillon was born of exchanged letters that were sent between Glenn Bennett, a Kitsilus First Nation chief councilor, and Colleen Nice, the current chair of the Northern Health Authority. A British Columbia First Nation says racism in the healthcare system persists despite efforts by the government and the industry to combat the problem. The Tsilhqot'in National Government says it met with officials from Interior Health, the Cariboo Regional District, and the City of Williams Lake last week to address the issue. Tsilhqot'in Tribal Chair Joe Alphonse says racism within the local health system is limiting the Indigenous community's access to care. He notes the problem is made worse by a shortage of doctors in the province. The BC government released a report back in 2020 which found that stereotyping, prejudice, and racist treatment were common experiences for Indigenous people seeking health care, and it recommended policy and legislation changes to protect those patients. Coming up next, BC gas prices are seemingly set to shoot up soon. Experts have said that the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion that is running through BC will only end up offering a short reprieve for Canada's oil producers when it finally opens. The expansion is expected to come online sometime in the spring and is expected to boost the existing pipeline's capacity by 590,000 barrels a day. But industry watchers have stated that Trans Mountain has been plagued by so many construction delays that by the time it does actually open, the new capacity will be quickly filled. Canada's oil output is expected to again exceed its pipeline capacity as early as 2026. And now for something that's currently costing more, gas. Prices jumped overnight in Metro Vancouver and are expected to soar just in time for the summer driving season. CTV's Kevin Chirac has more on what's fueling the rising price of fuel.
Filling up, not so fun.
We're going to breach the $2 a liter range, something we haven't done since Tuesday, October the 3rd.
That grim gas milestone expected to hit next week and keep rising.
Summer demand kicks in between the the middle part of April all the way into the middle part of September. That's usually good for by historical norms about a 15-cent a liter increase. Second would be the switchover from winter to summer gasoline. That's about 7 cents a liter.
April 1st also marks a carbon tax increase of about 3 cents per liter.
It's absolutely out of control, and it's also wildly unpopular.
Carson Binda is with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation and says British Columbians pay about $50 per fill-up in fuel taxes alone.
So it's going to be about 81 cents in total taxes per liter of gasoline.
Everything going up, prices, and then I'm not sure what the government not controlling that. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
To save money, there's always walking, cycling, scooting, taking transit, or
driving plays a big component on how we save fuel.
Proper tire pressure, timely oil changes, going easy on the brakes and acceleration can all help preserve fuel. And for highway driving, a certain speed could save you some cash.
Somewhere between 80 to 90 kilometers an hour if you're on the highway, stay within that range. You'll find you'll have the best burn for your fuel and the best shifting and operation for your engine.
And as we look ahead, McTague doesn't believe we'll reach the record high of $2.40 a liter set back in 2022, but he says we could see a jump to more than $2.20 per liter by May long weekend. Kevin Chirac, CTV News, Vancouver.
The NDP government is going after so-called wrongdoers, including social media giants, to recover health-related costs. New legislation was recently introduced, sparked by the tragic death of a young boy who was tricked into sending intimate photos on Snapchat. CTV's Shannon Patterson now on what the province hopes the legislation will achieve and what it will need to prove in court.
It was the online sextortion of Carson Cleland, a 12-year-old boy from Prince George who died by suicide in November, that convinced the BC government it needed a way to hold social media companies accountable.
We would never allow a company to set up a space for kids where grown adults could be invited in to contact them, encourage them to share photographs, and then threaten to distribute those photographs to their family and friends. That place would be shut down in 10 minutes. The proprietors would be in jail.
So the province has introduced the Public Health Accountability and Cost Recovery Act, legislation that would allow the government to take social media giants and other companies to court to recover costs for societal harm.
The message to these big, faceless companies is you will be held accountable in British Columbia for the harm that you caused to people.
The province is already embroiled in years-long litigation against tobacco and pharmaceutical companies aimed at recovering health costs.
We've learned from what happened in tobacco what's happening in opioids. And so this legislation is specifically constructed in response to that and all of the court cases that have come since then. So we think it's actually quite powerful in terms of how we're able to launch these actions, but also hold companies accountable across Canada, really.
A litigation like this is going to take years. I'm curious to see, what kind of the first target would be.
Proving measurable harm from social media will likely be more difficult than proving harm from cigarettes and opioids.
A lot of the focus then on social media when it comes to the harm is what do they know based on their own internal research about the harms of their products? And once they have that knowledge, what are they doing with that?
The province believes social media companies aren't doing enough to protect children like Carson Cleland from predators. And if the legislation passes, they're prepared to take them to court. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
You may think that it's important for mayors and councillors to be present at council meetings, especially when votes are taking place, but it turns out, at least in Vancouver, hundreds of motions have been voted on without the mayor there. CTV's Mark McMahon looks at the numbers.
Councillors can take their seats.
In this chamber, decisions are made about how your tax dollars are spent. Hundreds of votes have taken place since Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim and his party came to power. We looked at 777 of those votes up until February 28th. Sim has been absent for nearly a third of them.
He's got a new investment in a lot of staff in his back room, so he's got that ability. But I think in the interest of democracy and accountability to the public, we should probably endeavor to be there for as many votes as we can.
When we start to get to the range of missing one vote in three, it's worth asking questions whether the mayor is actually showing up to do the job that he was primarily elected to do.
We also asked people for their view on the mayor missing so many votes.
I don't agree with it. I mean, he's the mayor. He should be there.
He should be involved in everything, and particularly the voting, the decision making. I think he should be there.
I laugh, of course, because it's like, what? Can I be at my job, be absent for 1/3 of the time, unless I'm granted permission by my manager? So who is his manager?
For Sim's ABC party as a whole, it's a case of 1, 2, 3 on the most missed votes list at City Hall. CTV asked for an interview with the mayor, but his office would only send us this statement, which reads in part, "While voting is an important aspect of governance, it's equally important to balance my duty as mayor with the responsibilities beyond the chamber. I also sit as chair of the Vancouver Police Board, a member of the Mayor's Council for TransLink, and a director for Metro Vancouver." ABC councillor Lenny Zhou has the best attendance record, absent for just 9 votes during the period we looked at. But he says there's more to the job of mayor than these council votes.
I'm really proud of being one of the people working really hard, but I can tell you the mayor is working even harder than me. So that one I can guarantee to our public. You have a mayor working really hard every day for our residents in the city.
On a percentage basis, former Mayor Kennedy Stewart was absent for about half the votes Sim missed. But Joe argues it's not entirely comparable because of the pandemic. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is supposed to get mainly cloudy conditions with a low down at 4 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is said to be dealing with mainly cloudy conditions as well, but their low is down at 3 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is likely to be partly cloudy instead, and the low for them will be down at -1 degree. On the North Coast, the upcoming week is supposed to go back and forth between clouds and sun, while the high goes from 13 to 5 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them should mostly be sunny, but with some clouds as well, while their high moves from 14 to 8 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the next week or so will likely deal with sun at the start, but get a bit more cloudy later in the week, with the high bouncing between 14 and 8 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, water pooling, and construction work, plus the Usk ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 37 has some slippery sections too, while also having avalanche control work. Highway 37A has slippery sections too and shoulder maintenance. And the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections and compact snow. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is a look at how a TikTok ban could hurt its creators. Welcome back. As U.S. lawmakers mull a possible ban of the popular social media app TikTok, there's been chatter from Canadian content creators that losing the U.S. market could cost them a lot of money. Here's CTV's Kimberly Fowler with more.
I get a lot of opportunities from American brands, so I think I will be hit.
Dominique Baker is a Canadian content creator with over 163,000 followers on TikTok. Most of her followers are from the U.S., and if there is a ban of the social media app south of the border, that could affect her pocketbook.
It's a bit scary. I think the engagement will really tank.
On Wednesday, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill that could ban TikTok over security concerns, calling on the app's Chinese parent company to sell it within 6 months or be blocked.
We also know that there are 300,000 American jobs that work on TikTok that would be affected if there were a ban. So we're talking about taking billions of dollars out of the local economy.
Here in Canada, the federal government banned TikTok from its mobile devices in February of 2023 after federal and provincial privacy commissioners launched their own investigation into the platform. And in September of last year, a national security review of TikTok was ordered, but it wasn't made public until now. Some Canadian businesses that make TikTok content say the U.S. market is paramount.
All in all, we'll just adapt to it, maybe, repurpose efforts to other social media platforms, which we already use. So we'll be following it closely.
Canadian content creators like Baker say they will turn to other social media platforms for revenue.
I will most definitely be focusing more on YouTube. I have a pretty thriving community on YouTube, so if an American ban does go ahead, I will put all of my energy into Instagram and YouTube.
New research into the link between brain health and exercise suggests a chemical your body produces could play a big role in maximizing the brain's function. Here's CTV's Pauline Chad with more.
Jennifer Heise's work at McMaster University has looked at how exercise can help stave off dementia.
One of the main goals of the research in my lab, the NeuroFit lab at McMaster University, is to develop these prescriptions for exercise for brain health.
They studied dozens of seniors aged 60 to 88 who began either steady walking programs or walking with intervals of high-intensity walking.
And it turned out that that interval walking was particularly good at improving memory, especially for seniors.
In fact, they had a 30% gain in memory function after just 3 months, and it seems lactic acid, or lactate, may be the key difference.
As we exercise at higher intensities, we have this accumulation of lactate in the muscles. Lactate spills out into the bloodstream, travels to the brain across the blood-brain barrier, and reports to the hippocampus, which is the main brain region for learning and memory.
So why not create a way to pump lactic acid into the human body, as has been tested in animals? Turns out the key to stimulating new brain cell growth is not so simple.
One thing that exercise provides, over and above the physical health benefits, is this social connection with other people. creating like an exercise family.
High says we are at our peak cognitive abilities in our 30s, so that should be when we start using exercise more to slow that decline. And every workout that causes an increase in lactate in our systems helps. So it's important to find an activity you enjoy and will do as often as possible. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 0.12 cents. The price of gold is down $6. Oil is down 16 cents. Natural gas is down 9 cents. Aluminum is down $12.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up 19.30 points. The Venture Index is up 1.43. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 190.89, and NASDAQ is down 155.36. Still ahead, many are still trying to discover how much BC will pay for the World Cup. Welcome back. The pressure is growing for the city of Vancouver and BC to reveal just how much it'll cost to host the 2026 World Cup. As CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports, Canada's Taxpayers Federation says it's now time to show the bill.
World Cup planners have made their way to Vancouver this week, getting a lay of the land of BC Place, the anticipation building for the 2026 showcase, but just how much money BC taxpayers will be on the hook for, still unknown.
As soon as we're able to, we will be releasing everything that we can legally.
Vancouver's mayor previously told CTV News he could not share any details due to non-disclosure agreements. But the city told us Thursday it's not restricted from sharing the budget and it's still determining costs. While over in Toronto, the city estimates it will cost $380 million. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says it obtained Toronto's contract through a Freedom of Information request.
The Toronto government and their FOI system handed us an almost complete contract with very minimal redactions. That's the exact opposite of what we've seen here in Vancouver.
2 years ago, the cost estimate was $260 million.
I'm here to tell you right now, it will be well over double that. It could even be worse.
The Minister of Tourism and Sport wouldn't go that far, but admits getting more games than previously expected has added to the bill.
Well, we have a significant increase in opportunity, and with that comes an increase in cost. So with 7 games, we have more security costs, etc.
I don't think the provincial government or the city should be spending any money throwing a big circus when many British Columbians can't afford bread right now.
Lana Popham was asked if potential upgrades to BC Place were holding up the government's announcement of a dollar figure, but she did not directly answer, saying the stadium has long needed upgrades. She says they'll be able to release more information in a few weeks. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
BC's Auditor General Michael Pickup says BC should sharpen its accounting practices when estimating how much tax revenue they expect to collect. Pickup said tax revenue estimations have routinely been off by about $1 billion the past decade, but this year BC relied on more timely info thanks to Pickup's office. That reportedly means the BC government surplus forecast was reduced by around $1.86 billion after relying on federal government tax filing info. Pickup said that estimating tax revenues is challenging, but accurate forecasts are important since that money makes up about a third of BC's budget, or about $26.5 billion a year. That's all our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.